Hello. For an organization to be quite successful, selecting the right projects, aligning the right team members to their work is critical for its success. My topic is about how we can use Project for the Web with Power BI for powerful analytics. My name is Prasad. I work in Cognizant as a senior manager. I am a 7-time MVP in Microsoft Project. I also head the Microsoft Project User Group in Chennai in India. The topic of today's webinar is going to be more around what Project for the Web is. We'll talk about the Power BI template for the Project for the Web, as well as how do we customize this Power BI template for your needs. But first, what is Project for the Web? The Project for the Web, though it is a quite new product, the word project or project management is not quite new to us. So Project for the Web is placed between Microsoft Planner and Project Online. If you look at Microsoft Planner, it is more often used for small task management where we don't have a need for setting dependencies, where we need a lot of collaboration in place. Whereas if you look at Project Online, it is more an enterprise-based project management product through which you will be able to track cost management, you will be able to manage your resources quite well. But there are certain medium-sized projects who would like to have a mix of both, which means they would like to set dependencies, they would like to have grid layout. At the same time, they also want their team members to collaborate. And that is what Project for the Web is. The data of your Project for the Web is stored in Dataverse, also called as Common Data Service. Let me give you a quick walkthrough on Project for the Web features so that you can appreciate the data of the Power BI template. So what you see right now is the Project for the Web homepage. In order to access Project for the Web, you need to have certain licenses. So during this webinar, I'm going to walk you through on a few scenarios where some of them might be the team members, some of them might be the project managers. So if you look at creating a project in Project for the Web, you should either have a Plan 1, Plan 3 or a Plan 5 license. But if you are just going to view the project that is created in Project for the Web, you can ideally have an Office 365 license. But please do remember, you will not be able to delete or edit the data of that particular project. So there are certain projects that I've already created for us. So I'm just going to open some of these projects here. So what you see right now is a project by the name Work from Home Bangalore. So the objective of this particular project is to help employees of a particular organization to move towards a work from home culture so that we are able to support them so that we can improve their productivity. So there are certain tasks that I've grouped under the analysis stage, and there are certain tasks that comes under the implementation stage. Each one of these tasks do have a duration, they have a start date and a finish date, and they have also assigned to them. You might wonder, what about dependencies between these tasks? You can look at adding a column where I can say the predecessor and the successor. Another way by which you can set dependencies is by using the timeline grid here. So in my timeline, you should be able to see a Gantt chart representation of your different tasks, and you can also see how they are connected with each other. So let me zoom this out so that you can see this. Yeah. So right now you can notice that I have the different tasks here that are being well connected through proper dependencies here. So now going to the board view, we have a concept called bucket. Buckets are more like different stages or different ways by which you want to compartmentalize your task. In this example, I have grouped my task more with respect to people. Some of these tasks are more with respect to facilities and infrastructure, and some of these tasks are more to do with milestones that I want to closely track. So as I start assigning members to one or more of these tasks, what Project for the Web indirectly does is it creates an Office 365 group for this current project. And each one of these team members are placed as members of that current group. Now the benefit of having an Office 365 group is collaboration. You will be able to reuse this Office 365 group as a part of your SharePoint, or when you are creating a team, or when you are using it for other sorts of communication. Now you might wonder, where is this data stored? Because I don't see Dataverse anywhere here. So the Project for the Web is actually built on top of your Power Platform. So in order to access the data that is stored in your Project for the Web, you just need to go to the Power Apps Maker platform. So first, let's start with looking at certain tables that is storing our project, task, and resource information. So in my Power Apps Maker, I just go to the tables under Dataverse, and I should be able to change the filter by all. And let me search by the keyword project. You can notice that there are several tables with the name project. So I would request you to select the first one, which is project here. And the project table includes a list of columns. So I'm not going to walk you through on all these columns here, but rather just to give you an idea that the data that we created in Project for the Web is naturally getting stored in one or more of these tables, in one or more of these columns. Okay? And naturally, all the information about your task, its dependencies, its risk and resources is stored in one or more tables in your Dataverse. Another benefit that you're having in when you have data in Dataverse, you can start creating apps. So when you have a project for the web, you also have access to the apps that are installed for project. So right now I'm in apps and you can find a project app installed. So let me open this. So you can notice that the environment URL of your Dataverse has been provided here. Okay. So right now it is listing all my projects. Okay. You can also look at the closed projects. You can look at resources and you can do edit, or you can even do customization on top of this. Okay. So now I hope you should have got an idea of what Project for the Web is and where it is ideally getting stored. But do remember, you should have a proper license. You should either have a Plan 1, Plan 3 or a Plan 5 license in order to create these projects and store it. Besides creating projects, what else can I do? The Project for the Web also includes roadmaps. So think of roadmaps as more giving you a bigger picture of all the different projects, maybe certain key milestones that are part of different projects. In order to create a new roadmap, you just use this option and just say new roadmap here. So I've already created a roadmap for us, and the name of the roadmap is Work from Home India. So in this roadmap, I would like to keep track of the most important tasks across different projects. As you can see that I have 3 projects that are added: Work from Home Chennai, Work from Home Bangalore, Work from Home Pune. Within each one of these projects, I've just selected a few tasks and milestones so that I can track its progress. Okay. So now we got an idea of where this roadmap and projects are connected. Okay. Now our next step is going to be, how can I visualize the data that is stored about my team members, about my projects and roadmaps? You have 2 choices. You can connect to this Dataverse, okay, and through Power BI, and you should be able to find the different tables, and naturally you need to start creating relationships between these different tables so that you can build visualization on top of it. But there's another method available for you. What is that? The Power BI template for Project for the Web. This template is already having your data model with all relationship sets. So you may want to just directly start using this particular template in order to create your reports. But do remember, the rules are still same. If you would like to create a new report that is stored on the Project for the Web data, you need to have either a Plan 1, a Plan 3 or a Plan 5 license. But if you're just going to look at viewing this report, maybe as a team member or maybe as a person who is outside the project space, you may need to have an Office 365 license in this case. So let me walk you through in terms of where you can get this template downloaded. This template is available in your GitHub. So in your GitHub Office Dev, you should be able to find the project Power BI templates. So I have already downloaded this template for you, and detailed description on the licenses and what this template allows you to do is available in this current page. So now let me have the template opened. So as you can see, the template is prompting you to enter the name of the Dataverse URL. I hope you recall I mentioned this before. When you access the project app through Power Apps platform, you will have access to this URL directly. So I'm just going to have this URL. Okay, so I've already loaded this, so I'm just going to close this. So let's take a look at this template. So this particular template has now connected to that Dataverse URL, and right now you can see the different sorts of information about your team, about your projects, as well as your roadmaps. So let me give you a quick walkthrough on the different pages to start with. First, at a very broad level, you can find that there are a few pages that are more with respect to roadmaps and portfolio. There are some pages that's with respect to resources, pages with respect to task, project, and timelines and work. So I'm going to pick a few pages here for you to get an idea. So let me start with my portfolio dashboard. The portfolio dashboard, as you can observe, it talks about all the projects that are created in the system in Dataverse. It is helping you to give you an idea of when it started, when it is planning to complete, how much of effort is completed, how many tasks is completed, how many of them are overview, to name a few. But if I would like to see more with respect to a team member, there are other views to solve that problem too. I can just do a right click and I can just go to this page called My Work, and I should be able to filter by a particular resource. For example, if I would like to see for a resource like Guru. So the moment I select that particular team member, it is giving an idea of the different tasks that are assigned to this particular team member, okay, and which project they are currently working with. So naturally, in order to make these visuals work, a data model is ideally required. So let me move to my model view here. So the model view that you right now see is already having all these tables and relationships set. You are free to customize it based on your needs. Okay. So if you broadly look at it, we will start with project. So when you look at a project, the project is naturally connected to a set of tasks through a one-to-many relationship, and projects are also connected to the team, okay, through a one-to-many relationship again. Another example, each one of these tasks can be assigned to 0 or more team members. So when you look at a task, we have a relationship between the task table as well as the resource assignment table through this relationship. So these relationships are the ones that is helping these reports and the visuals to give you the correct data. Okay. So now we have got a good idea about the Power BI template. Okay. But let's look at more from a realistic standpoint. Each one of us play different roles in a project. Some of you can be the resource managers, some of you can be the team members, some of you are portfolio managers, some of you are project managers. So based on your needs, you may want to see different sets of data from the same project or from the same roadmaps. How is this possible? Now we are going to get into the next segment of this webinar, and how do we customize this data model, as well as how do we customize these different visuals. Now let's focus on how do we customize this Power BI template for our needs. The first scenario that I'm going to walk you through is, after a project plan has been created, you naturally will be assigning the task to one or more team members. You'd also want the team members to access this Power BI report so that they would be able to have a look at what task has been assigned to them. Now let's look at the default behavior of this Power BI template when we publish this to Power BI service. So I'm just going to go back to my Power BI desktop. So now I have connected to my Dataverse. So I am now going to go back to my Power BI service, start by creating a new app workspace. So let's give the name of this workspace as Project for the Web. Now the next step is I'm going to publish this report to this workspace. Now the publishing is complete. Let's go back to this workspace. Yes, you have the data set and you also have the report. So far good, isn't it? But we know that there are many team members who are working across projects. Now let's say if I'm sharing this report to one of them, say Sam, and let's see what he looks at when he is having access to this report. So I'm just going to copy this link. I have Sam right now, so let me go back to Sam. Yeah, so here it is Sam, okay, and right now is having access to Power BI service. So let me click this, give a direct link. Let's see what he sees. Ideally, he should be able to see only those projects and tasks that he is working with. Okay, so a closer look at this. I am able to see what my colleagues are working on even across projects. This is good for collaboration, but what if you don't want this feature? Maybe you want to protect the data so that they are able to see only the tasks that they need to work on. So this requires that we need to set up a row level security as a part of your data model. So I'm just going to go back to my Power BI desktop. So let's first start looking at your data model. So this data model is having a collection of tables. So but our topic is going to be more about a table called bookable resources. Okay, so let's find where it is. Yeah, here it is. So this is the table, okay, that is helping all the other tables connect with each other in terms of the unique resource ID and their resource name. So let's have a look at the bookable resource table here. So as you can see, it includes all the members of the team, including the project managers. Okay. But what this table doesn't have is the email address so that I would be able to set up a row level security. So let's find the impact of this table across your data model. So I'll change my view to the model view. Let me create a new layout. Let me call this as bookable resources and tables. Okay, so let me pull the related tables out here. So as you can see that there are more than one table, okay, which has a one-to-many relationship with the bookable resource. So our step is now going to be, we need to bring in the email address of each one of these resources in the bookable resources. So let's go to the transform data. So in your Power Query editor, you should be able to find a couple of queries that is of interest to us. So let's start with a bookable resource. It is having just 2 columns. But as you know that there is another query here called system users staging. Okay, which is helping us to understand the email address of the different members who are there in your Active Directory. So what if I'm trying to look at doing a merge of this system user staging table with my bookable resources? So that's what we are going to do now. So I'm just going to go to the first step, which is the source here. So this is listing all the tables of my bookable resources. Okay, so I'm just going to focus on a few set of columns here. So let's start with a column called user ID. So the user ID that you see here is the one that has been given in your system user staging table as system user ID. So we are going to use this as a key column to do this merge. So I'm going to go back to my bookable resources. So let me start with source. So I'm going to insert a step which is to merge the current table with my system user staging table. So let's select merge queries. It's going to insert a step. Let's go ahead. So on the top I have the bookable resources. On the bottom I'm just going to select system user staging. So I will select the system user ID on the bottom. On the top I'm going to select my user ID. And the join that I'm going to use is a left outer join. Okay, so let's say okay. Now the merging should be done and you should have a table. So now I'm going to expand this table. So when I expand this table, I'm not interested in all the other columns. I'm just interested only in the domain name, which is what is the email address. So let's say okay to it. Okay, so let's give a better name to this column. So I'm just going to call this as email address. Okay. So the next step that is by default available is it is removing the column. So even the email address is going to be removed, but we just want that to be retained. So I'm just going to click on the gear here. So let's search for email address. I'll say okay. So now if you look at it, your bookable resources is having the resource ID, the resource name, and even the email address. Okay. So now let's close the Power Query editor. Let's apply the changes to your data model. Okay, so now I have the email address. I think now I should be able to set the role level security. So I hit the manage roles of your data model. So I'm going to create a new role. Let's call this as resource role. And in bookable resources, I'm going to apply a security filter on the email address. And the value is going to be user principal name. So this ideally means that based on who is going to access this report, their credentials or their email address is going to be used in order to filter the data model. So let's save this changes. Okay, and let's test it out. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my report. Okay, and let's say I would like to see this as Sam. Okay, so let me select user role. Okay, so what you see right now is the task and the project which Sam is working on. So my model is now ready, my report is right now ready. Okay, I'm just going to publish this. So let's publish this to the same workspace. The project for the web, let's override this data set as well as the report. Okay, so now the report and your data model has been published. Now let's go back to the Power BI. So since the row level security has been set on your data model, we need to configure the security group. So let's go back to the Office 365. So I have created a security group called everyone, which includes all the members of this current Active Directory so that I would be able to add them here. So let's go back to this workspace. So I have the data set. So let's define the row level security. And I will say anyone who is part of the everyone security group, okay, should be able to access this report. So let's add it. Let's also save it. So what I have done in this report is a dynamic low level security. It's not quite static. Okay, so let's go back. As Sam, and let's refresh this page. So now he should be able to access only the task that has been assigned to him. So now I can see that he is able to see only the projects and information that he is working on. So this is a good approach, okay, which may take just a matter of minutes for you to set up, but it is quite powerful if you just want to restrict your data on your project for the web for your users. So now we have taken one scenario of how we can set a row level security for your data model. Now let's look at another scenario. Now let's say that the project manager would like to see a quick summary of the team members' performance. Okay, maybe they would like to have a quick narrative of who is working more or who is working less. I am sure that we all will be confused by looking at so many visuals. So there is one simple visual within Power BI which will help you to give you a quick summary of how your team members are doing across projects. So going back to my Power BI desktop. So right now I am on my resource dashboard page. And as you can see there, I'm flooded with a lot of visuals here. Though it gives you a lot of details, it's quite difficult to summarize and narrate someone, okay, in terms of how my team members are occupied. So the only visual that you need to add as a part of this current page is a smart narrative. So I'm just going to resize my tree map here and let me bring in this smart narrative from my visualizations pane. So this gives you a quick idea about which team member is working on, how many tasks have they been working on, what is the remaining effort. A lot of key information has been provided. You can even extend the smart narrative by adding certain custom fields or custom metrics that you feel is going to be quite useful for interpretation. Quite often we come across scenarios to understand the reasons why tasks are too late in a project. And we may also want to remind the respective project managers and team members about it. Now let's see how we can do this in Power BI. So going back to my Power BI desktop, I added a new page which is called as Overdue Task Analysis. So let me first bring in a Q&A visual so that I can start typing in some natural language to understand my overdue task. So let me bring in a Q&A visual here. So I'm going to start by typing in a question, list projects with overdue task as tree map. Okay. So now it gives you an idea that I have 5 tasks that are overdue here, 5 tasks that are overdue in Pune, and 1 task that is overdue in Chennai. But when I use the word overdue, it is including both the task that is at a summary level and even at the lowest level. So I may want to include the task that is only at the lowest level and exclude the one that is there at the summary level. So naturally at this page level, I want to apply a filter. So let's look at adding the task is summary field at a page level where I would like to include only those tasks where the value is false. Okay, so now I should see a different result in this number. Okay. My next requirement is I would like to find the root cause of why I'm having many tasks that is overdue on these projects. So the way you do it is you bring in a decomposition tree. So let's place this tree here. So I would like to analyze by overdue task. So let me bring in the overdue task in the analyze well. And there could be many reasons why a task could be overdue. It could be because of a slow performing team member, or it could be that there are too many critical tasks in a project, or it could be in a bucket that is at wrong priority, and there can be many reasons too. So I'm just going to add a few of these fields here. So let me start with critical. So when I use the word critical, it is not critical with respect to the customer. Rather, we say that if a task is critical and if it is going to be delayed further, it is naturally going to affect your project finish date. So I'm just going to bring in this field and my explain by well. Next, I'm going to bring in another field here. So let's bring in bucket. Okay, so that could be many tasks in the same bucket, and that could be the reason why it is not getting a focus. Then I may want to bring in my team. Okay, as you see that I don't see the team name here. The reason is it is a hidden table here. So I just want to bring the hidden tables first. So I'm going to bring in my team also in my explain by. Okay. Then I might want to know the duration of that particular task maybe. Okay, just to give an example, I would like to bring in the duration too. Okay, so we can either go by the AI split or we might want to do it by ourselves. Now let's start doing it by ourselves. Maybe I want to find how many of these tasks are falling on the critical and the non-critical path. So right now it says that there are 5 which are critical, the rest is non-critical. Okay, from here I would like to see this more by bucket names. Okay, then this can be further classified by who is working on it. So this is a nice way by which you will be able to understand, okay, who is working on it and what could be the contributing reasons why we are having some overdue task in this current project. Okay, so let's make it quite relative. So let's select Bangalore here, the WFH Bangalore. So you can see that it's going to give me a highlight of how many of these tasks are getting impacted. And I would also be able to change the edit interaction so that it is just filtering the data that I just need. Okay. My now next task is going to be that I might want to remind the team member of this respective project that, hey, they have some overdue task. Okay, so please hurry up and do something about it. So we can do this by using Power Automate. So we do have a visual here called Power Automate, through which we are going to just select a couple of projects so that we can send the respective reminders to the team members that there is some overdue task with them. So let's see how we can do that here. So I'm just going to start by adding the Power Automate for Power BI Visual. Okay, so now let's maximize this. So as a first step, I need to look at what are some of the data in my current page that needs to be passed on to my Power Automate. Okay, so I'm just going to start by having the name of the project. Okay, so let's have the name of the project as one of the fields to be passed. And the second is I want to tell them about the number of overdue tasks that they're having. Then I might want to talk about the effort, completed and remaining. Okay. But if I want to communicate, I also want their email address, the project manager's email address. So as you can see, we don't have the email address of the project manager. Rather, we just have the project manager's name only. So let me type in project manager. So you see that I have the project manager's name only in my project table. So how can I bring in the email address of the project manager? There are a couple of ways you can do it. You can go to the transform data. You can apply a merge on this. Okay, with your system users query to get it. Another way could be that you can try to look at using the lookup value function in order to get the email address of the project managers. Okay, so let's see how I can do it. Now let's create a new calculated column which will get the email address of the project manager. So the first step is we need to find where the project manager's ID is located. Okay, so but if you look at your bookable resource table, okay, we don't find a match here because we are having only the resource ID, the resource name and their email address. So this requires that we need to go back to your Power Query editor and going back to the bookable resources, right? We removed the columns that we don't need, okay, but we just need to include one of the fields here that is required for us to do the lookup of the project manager's ID with the user ID. So I'm just going to bring this user ID back. So now my bookable resource is going to have 4 columns, the user ID, the bookable resource ID, the resource name, as well as their email address. So let me apply these changes. Okay, so now we have it. So now let's go back to the project table once again. So I want to do a lookup of this project manager's ID here with the user ID in my bookable resource. Okay. So now let's start with the project table. I will create a new calculated column. let's give the name of this column as project manager email address. So I'm going to use the lookup function. I'll just say lookup value. I'm interested in the email address. It is there in your bookable resources table. So I just want to search based on the user ID, and I want to give the search value as the project manager's ID here. Okay, so let's close this, and I should be able to get the email address here. Okay, good. So now we have the email address. We can also pass the email address as a part of this flow right now. So let's have the email address of the project manager as one of the items to be passed. Okay. So once it is ready, right, now we need to focus on how to create a flow from here, right? So I just want to do an edit of this particular visual. Now this is going to activate your Power Automate. Okay, so I'm just going to create a new flow here and let it be an instant cloud flow. Let's not use any templates. So all the data that you see here are going to be passed on to this flow right now. So I'm going to add a new step here. And in this step, I would like to have the email address. So let's say that I would like to send a message on Teams. So let me type in Teams here, Microsoft Teams. Let me post an adaptive card. Okay, and let's say what I want to post. Okay, I want to post as a flow bot. Okay, I want to post this in chat as a flow bot. Okay, and here the recipient is going to be the email address of the project manager. So I'm just going to look at seeing where the email address is. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So the moment you did that, right, it might happen that there could be multiple projects or multiple project managers you would have selected in the visual. So it automatically iterates through it. So now this is the place where I am going to just have the adaptive card as a JSON. And this is the template that I'm going to use. Okay, so the title is going to be the name of the project. So this is a standard message that I'm going to have. And I'm also going to tell them how many tasks are overdue, how much of effort is completed, how much of effort is remaining, to name a few here. Okay. So there is also one more field here, okay, which you can include, through which they can click on this button to see the project or the task that has been overdue. So I'm just going to copy this. So let's go back and let's say this is the message that I would like to add. Okay, so let's start by looking at this adaptive card. So the first one is I just want to replace the title with the name of the project. Okay, so I'm just going to say that the name of the project is here. Yeah, here it is. So let's verify that. So we have the name of the project as my body. Okay, the next one, I don't want to change this message. It's a standard message. Now let's look at the number of tasks that is overdue. So let's remove the value 1 and let's see how many tasks is overdue here. Yeah. So now this is going to give me the number of tasks that is overdue. Now let's move on to effort completed. Okay, and effort remaining. Okay, I may want to change the adaptive card version number to 1.2. Okay, and yes, I think we have done. So I just want to save those changes for now. So let's go back. Okay, and let's apply this to the current button. And let's select one of the projects and let's click on run now. So this is naturally going to send a message. Okay, and as you can see in my Power Automate, I got a card here. So let's see that. It says that in work from home Pune, okay, I have 4 due tasks, so many tasks is being completed and so much of effort is remaining. Okay. What I've showcased is a few powerful capabilities of your Dataverse where your project for the web is being stored. You can look at enhancing these scenarios by working on this data model, as well as you can also look at customizing the visuals, okay, that are available as a part of your Power BI template. So thank you for this opportunity once again, and have a great day.